Good morning. Thank you for being here today. House Republicans remain focused on providing critical checks and oversight on the Biden administration and delivering results on our commitment to America. In the last week alone, House Republicans have delivered major legislative victories for the American people. Meanwhile, House Democrats are in total disarray in their caucus and with Joe Biden. Last week, I'm proud the House passed my bill with bipartisan support, the Rein in Inflation Act. House Republicans and 59 Democrats are rightfully putting critical checks on the Biden administration and holding Joe Biden accountable for his reckless spending fueling inflation. The Senate passed our CRA, which would block Biden's woke ESG rule. Wall Street should not use your retirement savings to fund left-wing political causes. And this week, the Senate will pass House Republicans' resolution from Andrew Clyde to restore law and order in our nation's capital and repeal D.C. Democrats' City Council soft on crime and pro-carjacking bill. Those are the words of Joe Biden. And we look forward to it becoming law after Joe Biden publicly whipped against it and then changed his stance and said he would sign it. And as a new mom, I am particularly proud of House Republicans' continued fight against Democrats' war on parents. Last week, Congresswoman Julia Letlow reintroduced the Parents' Bill of Rights with an event with Speaker McCarthy and parents and students. As promised, we are putting power back in the hands of parents who deserve a seat at the table in their kids' education. Our legislative victories in the new House Republican majority speak for themselves, and we are just getting started. It is my pleasure. Every week we highlight a freshman, and this week I'm going to introduce Congressman John Duarte from California, a farmer who is going to discuss House Republicans' efforts to reverse Joe Biden's flawed and burdensome WOTUS rule. John.
Thank you. Hello. As a farmer, I've been prosecuted under the Clean Water Act for farming through wetlands that have been farmed many times before. Now, when you hear the terms wetlands this week in our appeal, a Congressional Review Act repeal of the Biden WOTUS rule, I will show you photos of wetlands that contain no water. I will show you photos of wetlands that contain no frogs, no fish, no aquatic vertebrae whatsoever. These wetlands, as described in the Biden WOTUS rule, are farmed all over the country. Your food system is reliant upon farmers being able to farm their land, every little low pocket, every little swale, every little gully on their land could be deemed to be a wetland under the Biden WOTUS rule. And this threatens American food supply at a time when food inflation is already crippling the household budgets of working families all over America. We'll present more evidence later, but please follow this. This is a threat to America's affordable food supply. Thank you.
We will next go to Julia Letlow, a member of the House Education and Workforce Committee, to highlight her Parents' Bill of Rights.
Thank you so much, Elise. Over the last 2 years, we heard loud and clear from parents all across this country that they are tired of being turned away. They deserve a seat at the table when it comes to their child's education, and therefore we brought forward the Parents' Bill of Rights. And it's actually astounding to me that we have to have legislation that would protect Parents' Bill of Rights, but here we are. And I want to quickly go through what those rights are. A parent should always have the right to view their child's curriculum at any time. They should also be able to see what books are held in their child's library. And you know what? If they find something that they don't agree with, they should be able to lawfully have the right to go to their school board and voice their concerns. We are also asking for transparency. We want to know what your tax dollars are going towards. So a school should be able to should have to show their school budget and what your tax dollars are going to. Also, if there's any violence on your child's campus, you should be notified as a parent. And lastly, you should have the right to protect your child's privacy. Again, this is common sense legislation. It's about transparency and accountability. This is not a hit on our hardworking teachers. I am a prior educator. I have nothing but reverence. I think our teachers are our heroes, but this is about giving parents a voice and having a seat at the table, because in the end, these are our children, not the government's. Thank you so much, Elise.
We will next hear from our whip, Tom Emmer.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Julia and John. If you haven't noticed, after 2 months of a Republican House majority, we are on offense. Republicans' common sense legislation overhauling the District of Columbia's radical criminal code has forced even Joe Biden to admit the Democrat-run city has a crime issue. Now Democrats are scrambling. Biden has pledged he will not veto the bill, and vulnerable Senate Democrats are now supporting it. And even the D.C. City Council is trying to walk this thing back. But make no mistake, Democrats remain the pro-criminal, anti-law enforcement party. This is some serious Monday morning quarterbacking from the party that knows its soft on crime policies have led to losses in the past 2 election cycles. And guess what? The 173 House Democrats who voted against this bill now have to explain to their constituents how they are in the most radical pro-criminal members of their party. With a Republican House majority here, we have put an end to Democrats' failed one-party rule. Again, we're on offense, and we're going to force Democrats to come along with us as we continue to govern. Republicans have forced Joe Biden's hand on everything from ending the COVID national emergency to bringing him to the bargaining table on the debt ceiling, and now this crime bill. Joe Biden and the Democrats have a choice. Continue to cave to the leftist lunacy that cost them total control of Washington, or buck the woke nonsense and join the GOP's battle to restore common sense to the nation's capital. Either way, Republicans will be leading the charge. And now, to our leader.
Thank you, Whip. When Republicans ran to get the House majority, we actually made a commitment to America. We talked about the things that we would do if the people across this country gave us this opportunity to lead and to govern. And we've been hard at work delivering on those promises. Right out the box, we started tackling things like crime. Everybody knows that crime all around the country is running rampant. And there's no place more evident than that than here in our nation's capital. And so I want to credit Andrew Clyde, because as a congressman from Georgia, he saw a problem here in D.C. that was not being addressed. And under the United States Constitution, we actually have a duty to govern parts of the District of Columbia. Hasn't happened in 30 years where the United States Congress has stepped in, but it got so out of control that we said, let's take action. And so Andrew Clyde saw crime getting out of control, saw the council's action, where they literally got rid of mandatory minimums for violent criminals. So somebody that carjacks you at gunpoint, after being convicted, can walk scot-free without a day in prison. And so many other violent crimes where they literally took 15-year mandatory minimums and dropped them down to 0. And the criminals are paying attention to this. Crime's out of control in D.C. And so we brought a bill to the floor to get rid of that ordinance, to restore the mandatory minimums, to say if you're going to be a carjacker or a violent criminal, you ought to serve time in jail if you get convicted of that crime. Now, when we filed that bill, I think some in the press actually called it partisan. The president said he opposed it. But we knew we were fighting for those victims who shouldn't be victims of crime. In fact, the D.C. police chief just recently said that for every homicide in D.C., the person who committed the homicide committed 11 other crimes. If you stop the criminal before they kill somebody, think of how many other people you stop from being a victim of crime. Not to mention the lives that you'll save. The carjacker of today may be the person who kills someone tomorrow if you let him out of jail. And so by putting hardened criminals in jail, you're going to prevent crimes in the future. You're going to save lives in the future. And so I'm glad that the Senate is going to take that bill up and pass it this week onto the president so it can get signed into law. And for those 173 Democrats who voted against it, who sided with the carjackers, to paraphrase President Biden, they're going to have to answer why they're soft on crime. But people across America are fed up with those who are standing with the criminals, who want to defund the police, who have this attitude that a criminal should be let out of jail free to commit more crimes. Look at the city of Chicago. They just threw out their mayor because crime is out of control. People are fed up with it. And so at least this Congress, under this Republican majority, is taking action to defend people, to actually stand up against criminals. And so that bill will become law. There's other bills that could become law as well. We passed a bill to stop illegals from voting in D.C. The same week, by the way, that we brought up the D.C. crime bill. President Biden also objected to that bill. Maybe he'll reverse course again, because today in D.C., somebody who is a Russian citizen working at the embassy in Russia can vote in D.C. elections. A CCP member working at the Chinese embassy can vote in D.C. elections. That shouldn't be the case. And there's a bill over in the Senate that hopefully passes to address that. Andy Barr's bill just went to President Biden's desk. We just passed that bill days ago here in the House, and it's already passed the Senate and is going to Joe Biden, that stands up for blue-collar workers who want to have the ability to retire and have a good income. And so they want to invest their retirement savings in accounts that are going to hopefully yield the most gain. And yet through ESG policies that were pushed by the Biden administration because some billionaire elitists want to impose their will over blue-collar workers, those workers are actually getting a lower rate of return so that some billionaire elitist can have the desires that they want out of Washington. So President Biden's going to have to make a decision on that bill that now will go to his desk. Do you side with the billionaire elitists or the blue-collar workers who deserve the highest rate of return on their retirement income? That bill's on the president's desk as well. I hope he signs it too. And we're bringing other bills this week. You saw the Senate just last week passed a bill to declassify a lot of the information on the origins of COVID. We're going to pass that bill this Friday and hopefully get more facts out. People deserve to know the truth about what happened in that Wuhan lab. It's been shielded in secrecy for too long. There's a lot of information that's classified that shouldn't even be classified. The public should already know it. When we pass this bill to the president's desk, hopefully he signs it so that we can find that out as well. And on a final note, as we're continuing to move forward on our commitment to America, I want to applaud Julia Letlow and the Education Committee because having a Parents' Bill of Rights was one of those key planks in our commitment to America, and H.R. 5 will actually be passed to the floor, and then we'll vote on it when we return in 2 weeks. And then, of course, the week after that, we'll have a big energy package to show the country how we can be energy independent again and lower costs for those hardworking families who are struggling, who are paying too much for electricity costs, for gasoline at the pump because of President Biden's anti-American energy policy. We'll show the country how to fix that as well. But that will take some questions. Yes?
Leader Scalise, do you agree with Tucker Carlson's characterization that January 6th was peaceful?
Well, if you looked at I watched the first day of his expose on some of these tapes that are released that you're all going to be seeing as well. But he also criticized the people who broke the laws and attacked police officers. So the bottom line is there's finally transparency. This January 6th committee was always partisan from the beginning. Nancy Pelosi did not want all the facts to come out, so she cherry-picked what was released. She actually released some things that even Capitol Police didn't want released. They asked Tucker Carlson to not show some things that he blurred out. There were things that Pelosi's January 6th committee released, even about the undisclosed location where members of leadership went. So at the end of the day, transparency is an important thing, and so the public's going to be able to see a lot more information. But ultimately, and for my colleague Barry Loudermilk, I think he's owed an apology by every Democrat who questioned him on the events prior to January 6th. They implied things about him that weren't true, that those tapes revealed, and I'm waiting for those apologies to come because they owe it to him. Yes, in the back.
You have all of these issues you're raising, and yet January 6th is back in the news cycle. Do you regret the decision that Speaker McCarthy made to hand those tapes over?
Well, look, no matter whether the tapes are released or not, it seems like some in the press want to talk about January 6th every day. So do a lot of Democrats. They only want to talk about certain parts of it, though. And so at the end of the day, have the transparency to get all the facts out. Let the public see everything, not just what was a one-sided sham committee that was only focused on getting one side of the story out. We have serious questions about whether prior to January 6th there were decisions made by the leadership in Congress at the time to turn down help from the National Guard, for example, that could have prevented what happened. And so a lot of that is still going to come out. So get the facts out. And in the end, transparency is the best disinfectant. Yeah.
In the interest of transparency would need to release it to all the news outlets to take their own
Right. And Speaker McCarthy said they're going to be doing that. And so the good news is for you, you didn't get that under Speaker Pelosi. You will get that under Speaker McCarthy. And that's a new day that we're seeing in a lot of ways. We're finally seeing a lot of transparency across the board. We're seeing Congress work differently and better, delivering results for the American people now, too. That's something we didn't see. Last one.
Can you tell us about the Republican plans to look into the mistreatment of defendants at D.C. jail who are held on pretrial detention?
I don't know if that's going to be something that there's a few different committees that are looking at a number of things, not just related to January 6th, looking at some of these agencies that abuse their power. I think you saw Jim Jordan release some subpoenas over the weekend for some of these federal agents. I think, frankly, the media ought to be concerned about the report that's been exposed recently that the FTC was going after journalists regarding Twitter. And so when you see some of these federal agencies under the Biden administration going after people that are either exposing truth that they don't want out, we're going to be looking into a lot of that. So thank you. It's going to be a lot of, I think a lot more transparency is coming.